Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here with 49ers Plus Minus co-host Matt Barrows from The Athletic. There have been some things going on today. There's some things going on tomorrow. So we did move up. We've been kind of doing a Thursday evening 49ers Plus Minus pod because that's kind of when we get the idea when the quarterback is going to be. And this season, that's in like every week. Move this to Wednesday because the Warriors home openers tomorrow. This also happened to be the day the Giants hired a new manager. Things are happening, Matt Barrows. I am being pulled in many different directions, but we made sure we did this show. Thank God. What else would we do? What else would we be doing on a Wednesday evening but recording a 49ers Plus Minus? So I can very honestly ask you, Matt Barrows, what went on today?
Well, I can't wait to read your story about the Sharks.
Where am I? Where's that?
Sharks, Stanford. You're gonna do it all. You're the Tyler Perry of the Bay Area sports scene. You just do a little bit of everything.
I would like that Tyler Perry paycheck. Why don't I get that? That's all I want. All right, Barrows. Well, I read the Shanahan transcript from today. It's all I did. Saw some of the social media stuff. Sounds like Brock Purdy is not headed towards starting on Sunday. Is that the headline from today, or are there some other ones?
Yeah, that and the fact that Ricky Pearsall still isn't back at practice. They thought that injury, that knee injury that came against the Cardinals in week 3, that was going to be a quick return for him, and it has not. And he didn't even practice today. He was on a side field. A lot of guys on the side field. I saw Bryce Huff over there. Jake Brendel, the center, was over there. So all these guys are out for, it seems like, a couple of weeks, but not long-term injuries. But yeah, Pearsall and Purdy, who trained all off-season together, have barely had any time to kind of put that to use during the regular season. And, I think it all goes back to, for Purdy, the toe injury and it just being a very stubborn injury to get rid of. And anybody who heard turf toe back in week 1 or coming into week 2 kind of knew that was going to happen. And anybody who's been covering sports as long as we have covered an athlete who had a toe injury that just would not go away. Those things linger. And you think toe and you think, oh gosh, it's not a knee, it's not an elbow, it's not a critical part of the anatomy. It is, and it takes a long time to recover. And I was talking to Diana Rossini the other day, and she said that he had a workout on Sunday before the Falcons game and came out of that not feeling all that great about the toe. They thought it was going to be, a successful workout, something that sort of launched him toward starting this week in Houston, and it didn't feel great. And I think that's the nature of it. I think it's probably worse than what they initially thought it was, or maybe when he played against the Jaguars, it worsened. But it's obviously not healed yet. He still hasn't practiced in full. Shanahan did say that it's getting better marginally, but it's hard to see it getting better enough for him to play against the Texans.
Yeah, I know Shanahan was asked about this specifically, whether the artificial surface leads anything into any direction on the decision. He said no, but I got the sneaking suspicion they didn't like these 2 back-to-back artificial surface games coming up. Houston and then New York the week after. Houston is against maybe the best defense in football. DeMeco Ryans, everyone knows. I'm sure they'll never admit it, but I think that might be a reason to be a little safer side on this one. 2, I sort of wonder, is Shannon doing a little deke at DeMeco? Like, is he trying to make sure DeMeco isn't sure who the quarterback's going to be? These guys have been known to do, and not just Shanahan and DeMeco. It's like all these guys from the Shanahan tree. They're buddies. We saw how much, Shanahan and Raheem Morris were just buddying it up before the game, which Kyle does not do very often. And what did Kyle want to do? He wanted to shove the ball down his, defense, right? That's all he wanted to do was kill that defense because they're competitive. I wonder, I'd be curious if there's a little bit of element of just throwing this out there to make sure DeMeco's seeing it. And the third one is very obviously, but let's just say it, they're winning. You don't have to push Brock Purdy out there if there's any chance of making it worse. And maybe there's a partial admission that he's probably shouldn't have played against Jacksonville. It certainly he didn't play great, probably aggravated it. You use the reason why the toe keeps getting aggravated is because you have to use your toe on everything you do. When you push off, you're using your toe. When you're turning, you're using your toe. It just is a very, very, pliable thing that you're going to be turning and twisting on your toe. So I just wonder about all those things. I like the conspiracy aspect more than anything, of course. I love the conspiracy stuff. I just wonder if there's a little strategic thing to this, or they're just going to play it. Are they going to play it straight all the way through this injury, Barrows? They've been pretty straight about it.
Yeah, they have been.
He doesn't play. I just wonder if there might be a little subterfuge. That's just me, but I do think it's smart. You're 5-2. Houston's got some rock'em sock'em guys. Will Anderson. They just got guys. You're playing on artificial surface. Do you need to play him back to back? Hey, I wouldn't put it past him, even if they lose on Sunday, for him not to play against the Giants, just to make sure he's not putting that toe on that terrible MetLife turf. Although we're hearing the owners say how great that turf is. Jeff Miller, head of security, whatever, medical, saying, "Oh, it's one of our best surfaces." Yeah, why don't you go ahead and have your football game? You play Jeff on that field. You go play it. You try to cut and avoid 290 pounders on that turf. I just is silly to me, but that's the NFL. What do you say about the artificial surface issue with Brock Purdy?
I think, the 49ers have said that the surface doesn't matter, that the only way he could aggravate it, this is what they said going into week 4, is that if he somehow got tackled in the exact same manner that he did in Seattle in week 1. And lo and behold, that happened in the Jaguars game.
On the grass. Yeah, on
grass. So it's the idea that you are flexed, your toe is pressed against the ground while you're being tackled. So you have your weight plus another 200-pound man's weight on it, and that causes the flexion to, cause the injury to be aggravated. But if indeed he practiced or worked out on Sunday, there wasn't any tackling involved in that. And if he didn't feel good after it, if there was still pain in the toe, then other things are causing discomfort too. Throwing, running, taking off, accelerating, stopping, all the things that make Brock Purdy. I think that a bad toe compromises. And I think that's part of it. I mean, you don't want to, put a quarterback out there that can't use his best resources. And you don't want this to become a 18-week injury. And so I think they're going to try to wait for it to go away entirely or as close to entirely as they can. And I have no idea what week that means. I mean, people are now circling the week 10 game against the Rams because it is at home. He doesn't have to get on a plane, doesn't have to deal with the flight and the swelling and everything that goes with it. So that may be the best guess at this point, but it doesn't look like this week for Brock Purdy. It doesn't look like this week for Ricky Pearsall. And it's another week where you might want to take the under.
Oh, wow. Betting tips. Well, that was your betting tip of the week by Matt Barrows.
Well, it's just, both teams. I mean, the Texans today practiced without Nico Collins. He had a concussion. And they've been without Christian Kirk, their other receiver for a big chunk of the season. He's got a hamstring. So evidence, 49ers fans, that other teams get hamstring strains as well. Maybe not to the degree that the 49ers have had them. That's been their injury du jour for 2025, or du annum, whatever the French is for.
What are you saying here?
For a year. Last year it was the calf. This year it's hamstring.
I noticed Yamado Lenore popped up on the injury report. That was a knee, I think that Shanahan said.
Quad.
I'm sorry, quad. That cannot make 49er fans feel great. He's been, a stalwart on that defense when they don't have many veterans who have kind of been there the whole time. did not practice today. Is that what they're saying, or was it limited?
He did not practice. He also was on the side field, and Shanahan was asked. So on Wednesday, Shanahan has the press conference before the practice, and he tells us, okay, Diamador Lenore isn't going to practice. Brock Purdy is going to be limited, et cetera, et cetera. He was asked if he thought that, whether Lenore's injury was a long-term thing, that he'd missed multiple practices this week. And at first he said, I hope that he practices on Thursday. And then he said something like he expects him to practice on Thursday. So we'll see. I did watch him running on a side field. He did not look spry by any stretch of the imagination. And maybe he just needed to warm it up and get warm. And then the leg becomes a little bit looser. But from what I was seeing, he did not seem like a guy who was going to practice on Thursday. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm qualifying it as much as I can. Upton Stout is also, he was limited in practice with the ankle injury that kept him out of the Falcons game on Sunday. So they're light at cornerback going into this game. Luckily, the Texans are light at wide receiver, so they might cancel each other out. But it would bring up a question about who else is up on game day. They've got Eli Apple, the veteran who's on the practice squad. They could elevate him. Derek Canteen is a guy that they like, young guy, rookie. He's probably more in the role of being a special teamer so that somebody who's been playing special teams like a Sir O'Neal doesn't have to play quite as much if they need him to play on defense.
And this is Renato Green is out, correct? I mean, am I wrong?
No, he was back. He was limited.
Wow,
he was limited. He's got a toe, another toe injury, but he was out there. He looked like he was okay. I think he's going to play, but he's not 100%. And I should add that the defensive line, which has been banged up from jump as far back as training camp, obviously no Bryce Huff, obviously no Nick Bosa. You know the list by now, but just looking at the guys, and I'm hoping that we can run a video for the YouTube watchers. If you study each of those guys, one guy's got a club on his hand, another guy's got a big bandage on his wrist. That's Michael Williams. Alfred Collins has a big contraption brace on his knee. CJ West has a broken thumb. I mean, they're there, they're practicing, they're playing, but they're by no means healthy. So everybody on that defensive line, it seems like, has been dealing with something. So that's just something to keep in mind. Like there's a lot of wear and tear on this team beyond the guys whose names that you're reading on the report.
Well, they brought up Robert Beal. I don't know how many times he can go back up and down, up and down, up and down. Like they're running into limits on how many elevations they can make. I'm sure they could just cut him and I guess restart the count. But it feels like Robert Beal is going to have to play, right? I mean, Okawanu, and then I'm just kind of like, I'm not quite sure. Travis Gibson, who was on the practice squad, who still is, and he's going to get elevated. Like they're just talking about guys who've been cut, who've been bouncing around, who are now like going to play major roles in this game.
Yeah, I think they're playing a game with Gibson and Beal because Beal had been on the practice squad and Gibson had been on the 53-man roster for this last game. And basically today they reversed them. So they had to release Gibson. He had to go through, be available. He doesn't have to go through waivers because he's a veteran. And then they re-signed him to the practice squad. So my assumption is that his count for elevations restarts again. And I guess they're going to try to do that ad infinitum. I mean, they could keep doing it over and over again throughout the season, as long as nobody claims Beal off of waivers. He would have to be waived, be subject to waivers, and then somebody could snap him up. I don't think anybody's going to snap him up with that 1 sack in 3 years stat line that he has. So
he's important to them. I mean, maybe
they're probably safe.
If you're the opponent, won't you just go, hey, you know what? You want to come play for us for 2 weeks and you don't have the 49ers, don't have a defensive end? I mean, I could see a Belichick or something. He would have to do it for North Carolina at this point, which he probably wouldn't. But like that kind of coach is like, yeah, this is going to be interesting. We just grab their third defensive end that they're planning to play against us.
But both of those guys are making 53-man roster money. When you get elevated from the practice squad, you make, a regular salary for that week. So, I mean, I assume that Gibson's going to be elevated against the Texans, and he's probably going to, play 12 snaps or whatever he plays. So, both of those guys are going to have to play more. I would think that the DN starters are now, they've been Okuanu and Michael Williams with Huff getting the most snaps of any defensive lineman. That may be why he strained his hamstring. It's just more work than what he was training for, what they expected from him. Another reason for making a trade. We always seem to get to trade. But it's just it. When you lose that many guys, everybody has to either work, get more snaps than what they plan for, or play out of position. So if you do the trade, then you can sort of shift everybody back into their original roles. That would be probably a big benefit, certainly for somebody like Bryce Huff.
I'll just make my weekly mention of Leonard Floyd. Everyone gets mad, but it was a guy who stayed healthy. You could put in there. It's part of the depth. They decided they didn't need him because they want to save money. End of story. I mean, I think just from what I'm looking at, it looks like Shanahan is kind of more, at least publicly, entertaining the trade thing. I mean, not like the big time Trey Hendrickson. I don't know if that's going to happen, although you still see his name connected to the 49ers. I just don't think the Bengals are going to trade him. And I don't think 49ers are. And I think more than anything, practically Bengals are taking that position because they're going to have to get knocked over with an offer for Trey Hendrickson. The 49ers are not going to do it because he's going to be a $30 million player next year, and they're not going to keep him. And so you're renting him, and what do you give up for that? Okay, put that to the side. It seems like Shanahan is like expressing some could happen, whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading that, but John Lynch certainly has throwing, it's certainly an option, certainly some things they look at. They're probably going to trade something, right? I mean, again, I don't think it's going to be a top 100 pick or even a top 150 pick, but I could see them the 5th round, 6th round with guys on terrible teams who still have talent. Jalen Phillips is interesting to me. From Miami, just seems to kind of be that lanky defensive end that they like, who can play the run too. They don't necessarily like strictly pass rushers. They don't like the 240 pounders, like 260, 270, 280 length. Can you get them for a 5th round pick? That's kind of where I see them headed to this. The team is good enough where another defensive end sure could help out. And if you're given a 5th round pick, you're not sad. You're not bowled over if you don't re-sign them. Maybe you can. Like I mentioned, the Chase Young, and who was the other guy they got? The other defensive end they got that year?
Randy Gregory.
Yeah, who's no good and kind of a goofy guy. But I could see something in that realm, maybe not so high as a Chase Young, maybe not so low as a Randy Gregory, but there's a move to be made, and I think it's worth it. I think, trying to get to 11 or 12 wins instead of 10 really has value, and a pretty decent defensive end who isn't a superstar has value. And I could really see it. I would be surprised at this point if they don't acquire a defensive end at some point.
I agree with you. I mean, look at the bad teams. Look at the teams that seem to be playing ball. You got your Titans, your Saints, your Jets, and your Dolphins. So 3 AFC teams have no qualms about doing deals with NFC teams. And each of those has a guy that you can make an argument for. Arden Key with the Titans. I've talked about him a lot. He just makes so much sense because he could come in and help you on Sunday. He made the trade today. You just fly him over, and he's in uniform, or you don't even have to fly him over. Just fly him to Houston.
Drive him to Houston.
Half the trip right there. The Saints have several guys. I don't think that the 49ers would be interested in Chase Young part 2,
No.
given that Chase Young part 1 wasn't a smash hit here. They've got Granderson, who I think is really good. And then Cameron Jordan to me is interesting. Last year the whole idea. Who's the guy on? He was with Miami last year. He's on the Cardinals now. Calais Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
The whole refrain was free Calais Campbell from a bad Dolphins team and bring him to the 49ers. That would be the case with Cam Jordan as well. And just savvy veteran guy. It's a young defense. They could use a veteran. You could make that argument that he would provide some of that kind of gray hair that Bosa was giving them that they don't have anymore. Then the Jets have Jermaine Johnson, who's not a household name, but he's somebody that's familiar to Robert Saleh, and I've been told that Saleh likes him. A lot of ex-Jets on this roster right now, people who played for Saleh, people who have coached with Saleh. And then the Dolphins, you mentioned Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb would be the other possible Dolphin. And Chubb would be a lot like Cameron Jordan, I think. Just a guy who's been in the league, who's consistent, you know what you're getting, and can sort of anchor a very, very young defensive line.
Yeah, it's very 49er to do something. Again, you don't have to break the bank. You don't have to go great. And I mean, listen, if they did, I'd certainly be writing about it, and I'd probably applaud them for it. But it doesn't seem to be the right fit. The right fit was Trey Hendrickson, and if the Bengals are going to ask for a high 2 or a 2 and a 3, the 49ers aren't not doing that, and I understand that in this practical world. But they're going to get hungry for it. I just think Shanahan and Lynch are just going to be in that. We could just use somebody right here. And maybe the larger picture is, if without Bosa, without Warner, are you going to Super Bowl? That's, is a zero-sum game. Either get to the Super Bowl or don't. Not okay, but also just give yourself a better shot. One more piece that you can plug in there, and you're not throwing in Travis Gibson against the Rams in the fourth quarter, and you tell him you got to go get the quarterback. So we'll keep talking about it. It's coming up, not too far away now. But they also can say, hey, listen, what other injuries are we going to get? And that's fair in my world, exactly the way I say it. You don't know who's going to be healthy. You are never, ever fully healthy in an NFL season. And they get one every week, Barrows. Like, you can't go a week without losing a front.
They don't get one. They get multiple. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is, who knows who they'll lose the next time and the next time. But I will say, if they have Christian McCaffrey, maybe not this week, because those Texans are tough. But, man, that offense is going to go when you have number 23. This guy, we talked about it after game, but maybe the most essential player on this team, as long as Shanahan's coaching and calling plays, because he can get McCaffrey the ball. He's going to break off runs eventually. He ran for 129 yards last week in a breakout running game, but without really a home run hit. You just see this play out, and he's been there, the guy who holds us all up, at least offensively. When they didn't have him last year, it all broke apart. I think that's a pretty interesting way to look at the value that Christian McCaffrey has overall in the league, and specifically to this moment for the 49ers.
Yeah, if last year was marked by Christian McCaffrey's absence, this year is marked by the absence of everybody else and having Christian McCaffrey around for the first 7 games. He's been everything. He's been, I think he leads the league in touches. I think he's something like 3rd in targets, passing targets, and he's a running back. Like the next guy down, I think, is the Dolphins running back, Sean, and he's got something like 30 fewer targets than Christian McCaffrey. So he's everything to them. He's their top wide receiver right now, and he's their top running back. And he's facing somebody in DeMeco Ryans who knows how to kind of take that away and obviously appreciates it. Ryans was here when the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey in 22. So This will be a fun game to watch to see what they do. I don't think that there's a lot of great linebackers out there. I think that's a league issue. Guys like Kyle Shanahan make their living off of exploiting those linebackers. The Texans are one of the few teams because, they have DeMeco Ryans, the next linebacker, an ex-49er, and B, because they have Azeez Al-Shaair, who played for the 49ers, who have done a good job developing these guys. So if any team can take Christian McCaffrey away or at least minimize him, I would think it's the Texans. And it'll be interesting to see whether McCaffrey's streak of 100-yard combined games, which he's done every game so far this year, 200 against the Falcons on Sunday, continues against the Texans. That'll be my kind of litmus test as to whether the 49ers win this game.
I think it's going to be tough. And I know I shocked you with my positivity about the 49ers chances against Atlanta. Correctly. I am thinking this is going to be a really tough one for the 49ers. And we saw Texans are down. They played, they're going to have a short week, travel. They look horrendous offensively. DeMeco had to answer questions about firing his offensive coordinator. I think rightly so, because they do look terrible offensively. But Seattle's tough defensively. 49ers didn't go up and down the field, especially there. I think the Texans obviously are going up against a wounded 49er defense that played very well, but I think the Falcons I just like that matchup for the 49ers. I said it last show. I just thought it was a good matchup, both sides for the 49ers. I don't know that Houston is. Offensively, they're not a great matchup for any, Houston's not setting the world on fire against anybody, especially if Nico Collins is out. But they can manage. Can they manage 17 points? Then I think it's going to be really hard for the 49ers to get to 17 points, 2 touchdowns or whatever it's going to take. That defense is fantastic. I think they're pissed off. They're going to be back at home. The 49ers, if they don't have Pearsall, won't have the weapons. They'll have Kittle, who was back last week, but it's going to be real. There's going to be one coordinator who's not going to give up all those short passes to Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, we've been watching week after week going, why are they? I was sitting next to you in Atlanta. I'm like, what are they doing? They're putting a linebacker just staring Christian McCaffrey up face to face. Chris McCaffrey, okay, fake left, go right. I mean, it's just not that hard. Just can't see DeMeco doing that. I know I look at this so often through the Vic Fangio lens because I watched his defense so much. He would never let those passes go through. If you're going to get them, you're getting them for 5 yards. You're not getting them for 11. You're not getting them for 13. I just see the Houston Texans defense figuring things out, hitting hard. They're physical. What did Shanahan love about this matchup against the Falcons? Kittle said it. They're lighter. They're smaller. We could run on them. That's not Houston Texans. So I think this is going to be a very difficult game, Barrows. I will go ahead and say it. I think 49ers is going to lose. It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a tough game. But because I have this credibility of being Mr. 49er from last week, Mr. Positivity, I can cash in some of my chips and say I think this one's going to be a lot tougher. Just a different sort of matchup. I think the 49ers love going against finesse teams. Atlanta's a finesse team. Even with Bijan Robinson on offense, they just turned into that against the 49ers. I think the Texans are a physical, tough team, and DeMeco Ryans is going to have stuff coming at them on defense that at this point the 49ers may not be equipped to handle.
Yeah, I see it that way too. I think the ideal scenario for the 49ers would have been if, the Texans had gone into Seattle and won.
Yep.
In an emotional game, something, that came down to the end, and then they go back to Houston feeling good about themselves, and the 49ers can come in and sort of do the surprise that they did against the Rams and against the Falcons. But you're right. I think that this is a circle the wagon games for the Texans. I think it's a pride game for DeMeco Ryans. I think that you're seeing all this McCaffrey hype this week. You're seeing a lot of Shanahan hype this week. People are talking about, he's coach of the year candidate. Look what he's doing with this banged up roster, and all of it's true. But it's a sort of thing that emotionally an opponent can really easily seize on. And when it's only Christian McCaffrey on the team, you can strategically do that as well.
You would think. You would think.
We'll see. But I agree with you that this team does seem more equipped to handle him than maybe some other opponents. The linebackers are better. Like I said, I think DeMeco Ryans is going to have them whipped up. It's a 10 o'clock start clockwise, body clockwise for the 49ers. That's a disadvantage for them as well. So we'll see. I mean, if McCaffrey gets 132 yards, and if the 49ers win, then, offensive player of the year and coach of the year, I think all of a sudden are very much on the table for those two guys that I just mentioned.
No question. MVP we were talking about McCaffrey as MVP.
Oh, it has to be a quarterback. Yeah. It has to be a quarterback.
I'll push McCaffrey out there. He is in some ways having a better year than 2023. Not touchdowns. 2023 was just this crazy touchdown season for him and long runs. And those stats were better. But this year, the touches, the efficiency, just those receptions. He's I think he's on par to go like 1,400 receiving yards. I don't think he's going to get there, but that's amazing. It's been an amazing year, given everything else around him. Given that he's basically working with a second string quarterback, it has been I thought so even before the big game on Sunday night. I just felt that he was just fine, and he certainly produced the big numbers, and he's still due for that 70-yard touchdown run that we have not seen yet. But he's on it. I know it has to be quarterback, and we got a lot of good quarterbacks, but can he dare beat out Daniel Jones for MVP? I don't know. Is it possible to beat out Daniel Jones for MVP? It's been an incredible season for McCaffrey, and I think he really feels it because after last season was so rough, and had a lot of people questioning is he ever going to come back to that speed again that we saw in 2023? Well, we're seeing toughness out of him. And that's when I remember when he was traded to the 49ers, that's what I heard from the 49er people was because remember they'd played him 2 weeks before.
Right.
And they're like, this guy runs tough. Like they wouldn't want him if he's just a scat back who only hits the home runs and does not get the 4-yard runs on 3rd and 2. Like this guy was there was he's tough to tackle inside as anybody. I think Fred might have told me that. Somebody told me that. It's like this guy is a difficult running back to tackle. And he breaks it loose. So I didn't realize I was going to turn this into a Christian McCaffrey MVP podcast, but why not? Why not?
It'll be popular. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else you want to say about this one?
Well, only that you mentioned the 2023 season for Christian McCaffrey, special season. He had, Brandon Ayuk had a special season. Deebo Samuel was healthy. George Kittle was healthy. Brock Purdy was healthy. This year is more like his Carolina days in terms of the caliber of talent around him. And I do remember that game in Carolina that the 49ers played before the trade, blowout game, tons of 49ers fans in the stands. And Christian McCaffrey was the only thing that the Panthers had. I think that, a big difference this year is that he's got a better guy calling the plays, drawing up the plays. And, he doesn't have the starting quarterback, but he's got somebody who's starter worthy in Mac Jones and who understands the offense and understands that, we can matriculate the ball up and down the field if I just dump it off to this guy, if he's matched up against this slowish middle linebacker. So everything's worked out. This will be a fun game to watch, a really fun game to watch for the Christian McCaffrey versus DeMeco Ryans / Aziz matchup that we're going to see. That's probably going to be the highlight of this game.
What did Mac Jones say? I just want to throw it to Christian every time. I mean, why wouldn't you? But the Rams were not aware of this. The Falcons did not seem to be aware of this. I'm pretty sure DeMeco Ryans and Aziz Al-Shaair are going to be aware of this. Let's see if maybe they can't stop it. Maybe you just can't do it. I have a feeling they're going to be lined up and be the best. They'll give the best challenge to the 49ers. Just throw it to Christian every time offense. And maybe Shanahan will pull out something and you think we're going to throw it to Christian? We're throwing it to receiver unknown at this point. Kendrick Bourne.
Big Sky Moore game coming up.
Sky Moore coming up. Demarcus Robinson, who I got people really mad at me.
Oh, yeah. You had Demarcus Robinson off
like,
the roster.
What is going on with everybody? You have not seen what he's done this season. Has not been much. That's okay. You want to fight? Everyone wants to fight. Maybe he'll have 6 catches for 210 yards, including 2 80-yard touchdowns on Sunday. More power to him if he does. If he does, I certainly will praise him. And I eagerly await that happening. All right, Barrows, we did it. There might be a Barrows solo show. We got plenty of room for one now. So see how I'm leaving these openings for Barrows to just jump into it.
I was supposed to do a solo cast today, but Tim didn't want to see my solo career take off. So he insisted.
We got to do it. We got to do it. It's not the Warrior game tomorrow. I got to block Barrows.
Exactly.
On the ensuing Barrows era.
I'm Cher. He's Sonny, and he's trying to kind of snuff out my solo career.
I'm Greg Allman is what I am. All right, everybody. There will be a
Barrows angel.
Long-awaited solo pod either Thursday or Friday. I eagerly awaited. I love them mostly because I'm not doing anything during them. So go all power to Barrows, and we'll get all back to you also after the game on Sunday for a full show. Everybody, see ya.